Hi, I'm Erin Waters, and I just wanted to welcome you to the virtual learning party and just give you a brief little introduction to my video. I have been a teacher seller for almost 8 years, and I'm also the founder of School of Sellers, which is not only my podcast for teacher sellers, but also the online communities that we have been building over the last year and a half here on Facebook. So please join us in our School of Sellers Facebook group or School of Sellers 101 if you are brand new to TPT or you have a store that is in its beginning stages. We love welcoming new members every single day. So that is the most important thing I want you to take away from my presentation today is the invitation to join us in School of Sellers. One of the main philosophies that I share in School of Sellers constantly is the ability to work smarter and not harder. And a big part of that is learning how to create more content in less time, which is what we're talking about today, but also to repurpose content that you already have so you're not recreating the same stuff again and again and again. So, in the spirit of saving time and working smarter and not harder, I am sharing with you today a video that I actually created several months ago for the School of Sellers community, and it was our batch party series in which I took 2 nights on Facebook Live to explain not only what batching is, but also how I use batching to create a ton of content for my teacher business. So that is what you'll be watching today, and I'm also going to link to the full video in case you want to watch even more. But what you're watching today is part 2 in which I sit down with Canva and actually create content for social media for my business. So if you're curious to hear more about batching, then you can tune in using the link to view part 1 on YouTube. Thanks again and enjoy the show.
Here we go. Here's what's going to happen tonight. And I'm going to tell you right now, guys, I didn't rehearse this because I wanted you to see the real process. So if I make a mistake, just expect me to kind of be fumbling a little bit because obviously nobody's perfect. And Canva, as much as I love it, can always have some fun surprises for us. So we are going to just quickly recap yesterday's batching session because it leads directly into this. So if you are someone who is new to batching or you've tried batching and you just don't love it, or maybe you batch already and you're just looking for different ideas because there's no one size fits all approach to batching, you might even get some new tips that you never thought of doing because there are plenty of different approaches to batching your work. But the first step is always to choose the task that you are going to batch. Now for tonight, that's easy because we already had pre-planned to show you how to create those social media images. So tonight our task is social media stuff. And I think it's a good one, especially for teacher sellers. And especially if you are someone who either doesn't batch now, you don't think you like batching, or you're looking to improve your batching. I think social media is a great place to start because it checks all 3 boxes, right? Something that you batch ideally should be something that you don't like doing. Okay. Something that's on your to-do list all the time, but doesn't get done often or ever. And something that needs to be done in order to move the needle of your business. And when I say move the needle, I simply mean something that's actually going to result in results for you, not something that's just, you're just doing it and then it has no impact. You want something to have an impact on your business if you're going to spend your precious time on it, obviously. So for me, social media checks all of those boxes. I don't love it. I like the idea of it and I like learning about it, but when I sit down to actually, do all those tasks, it's definitely one early, like in my early days, I would save it for last and it just did not turn out well. So I'm guessing a lot of you are nodding along right now and can use these tips tonight to tackle your own social media mess. So then now that we've chosen our task, the next step, and this goes for anything you're batching, right? Not just social media. Our next step is to write out our steps, because if you just say that you're going to batch your social media images, that doesn't really say anything, right? If you don't go into your batching with a plan, then you're going to end up with a mess on your hands. So we want to write out the steps. That is a very crucial part. Now, in general, sorry, I keep hitting my microphone. Sounds like I'm in a dumpster or something. So in the grand scheme of things, obviously, if we were doing all of our social media stuff from start to finish, we would pencil everything in on the calendar, like where we want all the posts to go. We'd create all of the images, which is the piece we're focusing on tonight. We would create all the captions, all the hashtags, and then we would schedule all of those. Now, I will touch on a couple of these things and give you little tips along the way, but to batch all of these things would take longer than 30 minutes. So I will give you this piece, the image piece, and give you tips for the rest. And then our step 3 is to make a plan. Now, I will say that your batch plan is really hard when you start out because you don't really know what you're doing yet. I've been batching and following these systems for a couple years now, so it's going to probably look easier than it is, but I promise you that it can get to this point just with a little bit of practice. So I think the two main things that you can do now, even if you've never batched before, is to start creating some templates for the types of images that you want to create for social media. And these can be templates that you create in Canva. Canva has pre-made templates, which are amazing. You can purchase templates from Teachers Pay Teachers or Creative Market, pretty much anywhere. But having templates ready to go is really a game changer, because I think for a lot of us, the actual design piece, like creating the images and having to be creative in the way that it's presented and matching your colors and everything, that can take a lot of brain power. And if you have to expel that type of brain power every time you do social media, then of course we're exhausted. No wonder we're burnt out on social media. So templates are your first step in making your plan. And if you've already created templates, which I already have templates, then that part of your plan is already done. You just have to make sure you know where they are, okay? And I'm gonna show you my templates here in just a moment. And then my next step to plan is, because our focus tonight is creating images based on a blog post, then one of the biggest tips I can give for you is to gather the text and the images from that blog post. And I'm gonna make myself a little smaller here. I like to keep a Google Doc tab open next to my Canva tab. So if you click, I'll show you this again in a second, but you can see it has, I literally just copied and pasted from my blog, and it took over the pictures, the text, and everything. So that's what I mean by having your text from your blog. It'll help for some of our future steps. And then the next part is to start batching. So I know when I go over all these steps, it sounds really simple, but I think it's definitely one of those processes that is way easier to see in action rather than just talk about it. So I might be backtracking a little. I just want to make sure that I capture every single piece of this so that it makes sense to you. And I also want to preface this by saying that when I give you guys tips and ideas, I want you to keep two things in mind. One, I've been doing this for a long time, so it's going to look way easier than it's going to feel for you. And that's normal and that's expected. That's what should be happening. It should feel tough at the beginning. And then what was the other thing I was going to say I don't remember what the other thing I was going to say was. Let's just dive in. So here's what we've done. Okay, we have a blog post that I've written, and we are creating 2 weeks of social media posts or social media images from that one blog post. But here's what I'll tell you. If you don't have a blog, or you have a blog but you don't use it very often, you can still use this batching process for social media. You're just going to do it a little differently. So right now I'm taking all of my inspiration from the blog post that I wrote. And in order to prepare, I went through and I highlighted just different parts of the text that I thought might make really good images in terms of using quotes and standout keywords. So that's something you can do as well. Now I want to show you guys my templates, because this is probably like the biggest part of all this. I'm going to take you guys over here. Okay, so I'm actually going to delete these slides because I stuck those on my template, my actual template, just so I could have a little agenda up for you guys. So this is my actual template, and I have a stop sign here and a very obnoxious set of stop sign emojis in the title because I want to remind myself not to overwrite it. I want to always make a copy of this template so that I don't put my social media stuff on top of my original template. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Before I even show you guys my template, I'm going to make a copy, because if I don't do that right away, I end up overriding the original template, and then it's really annoying because I have to go back and create that template. So I'm going to go to File, and this is tip number one for why I love Canva. You can make a copy of anything, and you can even resize it, which I'll show you in a second. So I'm just going to click over here and make a copy. Okay. And then I'm going to change the title, obviously. I'm just going to call this Demo Blog Images, but you would name it whatever your naming mechanism was. And I can delete the stop sign now too. That's just kind of an extra reinforcement for me to make sure that I'm not totally screwing myself up. So at first glance, the templates look very plain and simple. And I'm actually going to pull these up in thumbnail version so you can see them all at once. They're really not impressive in template form. They're very plain. And at first glance, you're like, oh, cool, Erin, those are something my 5-year-old could make. Okay, but I promise you it's a little bit more than that. So let's go to the first one. Now, again, this part, I mean, you guys can do this however you want with your own templates, but this is how mine are organized. So I have a set of templates that I use whenever I create social media images for or from my blog. So right now, this first slide is a picture. So this camera is simply a placeholder telling me Erin, you want to use a picture here for the social media image. And the first few are actually just straight images. Okay, just to remind myself, not everything has to be cute and Canva-y. Sometimes, and most of the time actually, especially when you're posting on Facebook and Instagram, you don't want a ton of cutesy stuff. You don't want a ton of text overlay and added elements when you're trying to share photographs, because it can translate into something else. I save a lot of the text and the overlay stuff for Pinterest, which I'll show you when I'm finished with this. So just regular images for the first few slides. This image, things get a little more crazy. I still have this marked as a photograph, but this is where I'm going to use an image to advertise a new post. So I'll still have a photograph, but it'll say new post, and it'll either have the title of my blog post or some key phrase so people can see it and know exactly what my new post is about. Here I have a template where I like to give, like if I have a list post, this works well. Sometimes I use this for like a summary of my blog post, kind of like an infographic of what the blog post is about. And all of these you can use, they don't have to be for your blog post. I'm just showing you what my blog post image templates look like. So we will continue. And then scrolling down, I've just kind of thought of different ways that I want to share my content on Facebook and Instagram that's going to look different enough that I can post these images either several times in the same month or scatter them throughout my feed. But you'll see once I design them that these aren't all going to scream, I wrote a blog post. Really, the only specific blog post type templates is this one and maybe one other one. Here I have a template created for me where I will include just a quote or a statement from my blog post, another quote template, and another quote template. I love quotes personally, so I always try to include several from my blog post and any content that I create. This is another photo one, but it's going to be overlaid on a screen on a tablet, obviously. Now, I wanted to show you guys going back that one of my other favorite Canva features is this little sticky note up top, and it's where you can keep notes about what types of templates you want to create. So for example, even though these are all images, if you wanted to say photo one, this photo should always be a photo of a product that was featured in your blog post, right? Maybe you want photo two to always be a stock photo. But this is a good way to remind yourself what this template is specifically for, because sometimes you get caught up in the designing process and I might like delete this and then be like, oh crap, like what was that one supposed to be? So having the notes feature I found is extremely, extremely helpful. And I'll show you too, I can just tell you right now, the notes feature is also helpful for jotting down notes about what you want your caption or your pin description to be as you're creating. So let's go down. I don't need to explain all of these templates, but I'm going to anyway. So here we have another photo one. And this one I said this should be the featured product or opt-in. Okay, so I specified that. The first 4 photos can be anything, but that one specifically has to be a photo or an opt-in. This should be the screenshot of my blog title. Here I have a question, and these are engagement posts. So I try to tie in my blog content with the engagement question. So even though someone would see this and not necessarily think it's about a blog post, I'm still able to incorporate my content into questions like this. So I'm still getting that interaction and that engagement, but it also is aligned with the content that I like to share with my audience and what they expect from me. Same here, drop a GIF to show blank. And of course, we're going to fill all these out. I'm not going to just leave these like that, just to clarify. Here we have the same idea as the photos, but here's a video this time. So this is specifically going to be used for a video image. And we are going to just keep scrolling on down. Now, I like to keep all of my videos at the end of my Canva because, and I like to keep them together too, because that makes it easier when we export them later. Now, I don't necessarily need this many videos, but they're here just to remind myself that, that I want to leave that option open if I want. I will say that one of my favorite, probably the favorite Canva feature is the ability to resize your images for different platforms. So in order to not overwhelm you, I'm going to explain Pinterest at the end. I feel like I've given you a lot of information already, so we're just going to start just creating. So let's see here. I'm going to pull up my folders. I try to keep some of my folders on Canva and some on my computer. So here are the images for the blog post that I'm creating for. And again, another reason I love Canva, I just love Canva, guys. You can have a folder on Canva for anything you want. So it's really helpful once you create a blog post to save all of those images in one folder so that when you do go to create other things like social media content and pins and emails for those blog posts, you have all of those images already together and organized, right? And you're not like clicking between tabs, going to your blog post, screenshotting like random pictures from your blog. This is much more organized. And I can't tell you how many times I return back to these folders. So I see from the very first slide that I want a photo. So it's really just that easy. So I'm going to just start taking any photos that I have from the blog post. And honestly, it depends on the blog post. Sometimes I have way too many photos. Other times I'm like, oh gosh, I really should have included more photos. I would say this one's kind of middle of the road. I wish I had more photos, but I can work with what I have. So I'm going to check my notes. I don't have any specifications for my photos necessarily, what they have to look like. So I'm just going to start grabbing. And I realize that these, you're watching me and you're probably like, this is not social media material, but I will explain in a little bit. So we are going to delete the camera because that is just a placeholder. Let's see what other photos I can grab. I might end up deleting some of these, but I like to start with pretty much everything and then pare it down from there. I'd rather create too much and then get rid of what I don't love. That's why if you are creating templates for the first time, you're going back and you're thinking, oh, I can't wait to create some more templates. I always create way more than I need because the types of templates aren't going to work for every single blog post. So as I scroll through here, I might decide like this one won't work for this specific blog post. And that's okay, because then you just delete that slide. This is my new post slide. So I am going to, let's try this guy. We're going to use the stock photo and I'm going to send it. Oh, I don't want to do that. Okay. So I will say that Canva does have its downfalls, and one of them, I'm just deleting that again, trying again. One of them is that it always wants to put the picture in the background, and I don't always want it like that. So we are going to drag it down just a little, and I'm going to send it back. Okay, and then we're going to say teaching sight words. Okay, and that's, again, you're going to have to adjust based on the length of whatever text you are putting in, but Canva makes it really easy. I think that for things like this, Canva is way more user-friendly than PowerPoint, like the spacing and everything. Pictures could use a little bit of work, but I will still take Canva any day for creating stuff like this over PowerPoint. All right, moving right along. So teaching sight words, 1 week of lesson plans. Okay, that's not the title of my blog post, but this blog post is part of a larger series. And I am going to give a brief overview. I feel like I don't even need the subtitle there. So we're just going to drag this down. And for this blog post, this was showing the different days of the week that and what we do on each day of the week for sight word instruction. So introduce new words, Tuesday, sight word reading, Wednesday, interactive books, Thursday, reading, and then Friday, we're going to call that minute to minute. Okay, so because this is part of a larger series, I'm just going to go over here to elements, and I really should wait to do this until later. This is always the fun part, but I'm just going to, while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to add circle, and I want to highlight the fact that this specific post is for introducing new words. That's not going to work. So I'm going to underline maybe. There we go. And just so the reader knows and sees this and knows that I'm not about to give them a whole week's worth of lesson plans like we're just talking about Monday. All right, I might go back and change that, but I like that at the very least, that's a placeholder that I want to emphasize that that part is what I'm talking about. You'll also see that I've left placeholders here. I'm not going to keep the dice on my literacy materials, obviously, but that's there to remind me that I want to add an image if possible. Okay, we are just moving right along. I'm going to go back to my folder and I am going to drag these over here now. And ooh, this is going to work out really well. I swear I did not plan this. Unlock your, how are we going to say this? Unlock your students' sight word expertise. I'm going to do the spacing. Okay. Now for the quote, this is where it's really handy that I already copied and pasted my blog post text. So I'm going to go over here and grab that first quote. I think it was towards the top. Yes, so we're going to copy that over here, and I'm just going to paste. And of course, you'll always have to adjust based on the length of your text and everything. But it's really not that bad. Okay. I'm not adding any extras right now. I'm just going in and getting the core content in there, so that way I know what I'm starting with. So I could use the same quote, but I'm not going to. In fact, I'm probably going to get one more quote. Let's see here. Some of these won't make any sense to you, but in my mind, I'm already thinking about the caption that's going to go along with these posts. So that's something you want to keep in mind as well. We're going to resize that guy. That's really just, wow. Okay, we're going to go back and try that again. I'm going to do that. Just wanting to go on like 3 slides. Okie doke. I'm going to make that black. Okay, but if your audience doesn't know what the quote means, chances are they're going to want to learn more. So picking an obscure quote, and not even obscure, but something that people might not be able to know what it means right away is kind of a good thing, because then they're like, huh, I wonder what that's all about. Okay, now I will go back. I really like this quote, and I feel like I could use it multiple times. So I'm going to paste that again. And actually, let's just, let's do it again. We can always get rid of it later. See, that's the zebra in me. Instead of picking, I'm just doing it and moving on, and I can just go back and delete it later. Okay, let's see here. This, we want a picture of something on a screen. So let's see here. I think we are going to, there we go. Oh, that's a good one. So this is the opt-in. I have a free word list that they can download as part of their site word toolkit from this series. So that looks really good. I'm going to keep that. This is featured product or opt-in. So I know I just put it on the screen, but again, we are going for, we really want to go for variety here. So I'm going to just drag that down. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to my colors. And this is another reason I love Canva. You can create brand kits on Canva. So now I have all of my brand colors for School of Sellers, for my brand, for TPT, for my membership site, and so on. And it is the best thing in the world, because now instead of searching for the perfect color, all I have to do is click there and I'm good to go. So that is pretty amazing. I'm getting like really into this, so I'm just going to stop and make sure that I don't have any questions. Let's see here. Ooh, I like that. Hold on one second, guys. I'm just refreshing for a second. Okay. Okay. This is the copy. It's going to look, someone asked if this was the copy. I created like 17 different versions for you guys tonight so that I had the slides and the batch party stuff. So yes, this is a copy. It might look on your end like it's something I shouldn't be using, but this is still a copy of my original templates. I've just made like 17 copies today to make sure that I show you guys everything I want to show you. So let's see here. What do we want to put here? Screenshot of the blog title. See, if I wouldn't have made that little note to myself, I would be like, why is there a blank screen there? I probably would have just deleted it. So another little hack for you is if you post a blog post, take a screenshot of what it looks like on your actual blog page and use that as one of your images. But if you are scheduling your blog post ahead of time and you can't grab that live screenshot, you can still do the same thing when you are previewing the blog post. So I went ahead and did this. So I'm just going to resize that to fit. Whoopsie, that's a little too big. Okay, and now I want to ask a question. Again, this is an engagement one. So I'm going to ask, say words. What word list do you use to, actually, I'm going to change this. I'm going to say, when teaching, what, that's backfired, what word list do you use? Squish that up a little. I'm just moving myself all over the place here. I don't think there's a really good place to do it. Okay, I'm going to say Dolce, fry, or something else. I'll share in the comments. This is always a good one. People like sharing about what they do in their classrooms. This is also a good one if you guys use like emojis for responses. People love that. Drop a GIF to show how you feel about teaching sight words. Let's see. So I love GIFs. Okay, now we are moving on to our video portion. So if you have videos, great, you can superimpose them onto your Canva templates. But if you don't, Canva has a built-in feature that is super useful. So let's talk about the video part first. I have some videos. They're not really videos, they just are animated slides that are part of my opt-in in the blog post. So I'm going to include that in my video slide. I also like how Canva makes it easy for you to crop videos if you need to. Here's another video mock-up. I'm going to check my notes, just a video on the screen. It doesn't matter if it's for my opt-in or my blog post. I am just going to go for it. I'm going to run into a problem I run into a lot. So I'm kind of glad about this because I wanted to show you guys this. So do you see how I'm stretching this out? It's really obnoxious. They don't really let you resize, and that's okay. You just have to really position things. And one of the hacks that I like to do actually is to grab a rectangle, fill that in with the color that I think is going to work because it'll show you what it'll show you the colors in the photo. So it's really easy to match. And I'm going to just send that back. So it's not perfect, but it's better than having to not use that video at all. And then down here, I have room for things that I want to animate. So I'm going to check my questions. Okay, I have a question, 2 questions. Can't be changed. It's there to overlay something for. Okay, so Shauna asked, okay, so the template images you can change whenever you want. But I always like to make a copy first so that I know I'm not changing the original, if that makes sense. I hope I answered that question. The template images can't be changed. It's there to overlay something for. I'll look back at that. If I still haven't answered your question, Shauna, by the end, please ask again. Tiffany wants to know where I get my stock photos from. And Tiffany, I get them from everywhere. I really love Sidekick Studio. That's a TPT membership that you can get monthly stock photos from. Jasmine Star has Social Curator, which is a stock photo membership that you can get, but it's geared more towards like influencer types. It doesn't really match my aesthetic, but it has a ton of really good stuff. And then honestly, so here's a little secret for you guys. I have a paid membership to Istock, which is not cheap. It's through Adobe. I don't know what Istock is. Is it Adobe or Getty Images? But anyways, it's like a pretty legit stock photo membership. And I have noticed so many times that when I go to buy a photo from Istock, if I can't find it anywhere else, it's already in Canva. So honestly, you could probably find 90% of the stock photos that you need in Canva. And that's one of the main draws of having a pro account is access to all those stock photos. Okay, here I'm going to show you guys how to take, let's take this one. I'm going to take a design I already made and I'm going to turn it into a quick video using the magic that is Canva. So I'm going to select all, it's not going to grab the background for me. So let me grab that first. And actually, let's make this easy. If we go to thumbnail view, I'm going to click there. Let's see. Let's turn this one into a photo. So I'm just doing Command C to copy, and then I'm going to go back to the slide that I was working on. I'm going to paste. That way it pastes the whole thing, or at least it should be. Where's the text? Goodness gracious, guys. Okay, we'll grab that again. It just doesn't want to do it for me. Okay. Now, what we are going to do is just by selecting the slide, I'm going to click animate and it will add animation to our slide. So here's, let's just give you a couple different ideas. Now, again, these aren't like mind-blowing, but if you are using, this will come in handy with Pinterest when I show you about the Pinterest stuff, because it will recognize this as a brand new image because it's animated this time. And it's kind of just a fun little play on your standard still image. So the more pieces you have to your still image, the more action is going to happen when you animate. So let's grab one more. Let's see. I kind of want to see what would happen if we did this one as an animated. So let's go down here, paste. Oh, it grabbed all of it for me this time. So now if we animate this one, there's a little bit more going on because there are more pieces. So it's just kind of a fun little way to add some variety to your social media. Now, I'm not going to create every single one of these videos because like I said, I don't always have videos, but if you do, I always recommend creating more than you need. So just for the sake of tonight, so I don't have you guys here until midnight, I'm going to delete these last few templates. I'm going to go back to my thumbnails to make sure that I've filled in everything pretty decently. Okay, so now I'm going to go back, and if you want, you don't have to, this is when you can add little extras. So for example, on my quote slide, I'm going to go back and change this. I want this to be black. And I also kind of want to see if there's some like animated quote thingies that I could use. Show me your animated quotes, Canva. Animated? Let's try quotation. Quotation marks. Okay, so they don't want to give me quotation marks, and that's okay. So let's do something reading related. I know they'll have something reading related. Oh, I love that. Oh, that's adorable. Okay, that's really cute. I'm gonna have her just sitting up there too. Oh my gosh, okay, I love that. So now here's why I don't have this already added to my templates, because if I had this added to my templates, then all of my posts would end up looking pretty identical. And that's not the point of templates. You want your templates to be as simple as humanly possible and then make it really easy for you to add the extra touches at the end. Okay, so let's do one more of these. We're just adding to make it a little more eye-catching. I really like the reading theme, so I'm gonna stick with that. And I'm going to use a boy this time, actually. Get our fellas in the mix. Okay, oh my gosh, how cute is that? Okay. Sorry guys, I'm getting excited. And you could go through and you can add any extras you want. You don't want to go overboard, obviously, but it's because it's very tempting with Canva especially. But now I'm going to show you the Pinterest piece. Just 1 second. Let me see. Oopsie. Okay. I'm going to move me out of the way again. And we're going to refresh. Sometimes Canva gets overwhelmed by the amount of work we're doing to it. So, okay, so here's where we reach kind of a crossroads, okay? Let's see here. We want to make sure that everything we are creating is going to be good for Pinterest also, okay? Because that's one of the big things is the Pinterest piece. And I know something that a lot of you guys are wanting to do. So let's see, for some reason Canva is not wanting to load. So I'm going to go back to where I was. Let's see here. Figures. I think I have too much going on here. So the problem with Canva is that you create square images. I always start with square. So sometimes when you go to resize them to pins, the images don't always translate the best. So I'm going to show you what I've done in my Canva account. And this isn't the same thing that I was working off of, but this will do for now. So what I'm going to be doing down here, and I put this Pinterest serves kind of as the stop sign. So I know that this is where my Pinterest design starts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the entire, oh good, now it's working. I'm going to take the entire thing that I just did, and I'm going to go up to resize, and I am going to resize it for a Pinterest pin, okay? But before I show you how to do that, actually, you know what, I'm just gonna show you. So I'm going to resize as a Pinterest pin, and it's going to ask me if I want to copy and resize. The answer is yes, always copy and resize. So this automatically becomes your set of pins that goes along with the same blog post. Now, as you can see, not everything translates well into the equation. So like this one looks perfect. I'm going to keep that. This one can work. This one probably not, but we'll come back to it. So you kind of just have to scroll through and see what do you think is going to work with Pinterest and what's not. Pinterest is more obviously like the overlay type deal with a lot more text. So for that reason, we are going to weed out the ones that aren't going to work for Pinterest. Then I'm going to show you how to quickly turn these into pins. Usually I get rid of any engagement ones because it just doesn't make sense to have them. This is going to be really hard to see, so I'm just going to get rid of that. We might be able to keep quotes. We'll have to wait and see. Those will work. Most of these will work. So what I've done for my templates is, even though all of my templates are square, I have templates at the end that are reserved just for my pins. So that way, when I resize them to the pin size, I'm able to grab things that are already optimized for the long pins. So in my square, I'm going to show you what that looked like beforehand. In my square templates, I have longer images that you can put in, but I also have, this is the part I would really recommend, I also have the overlay that I want in all of my brand colors. So now when I am working to create pins, I can take, let's just say, for example, I'm just going to highlight this. If you highlight all the text, it'll grab all of it and you will copy it. Sorry if I'm making you dizzy, guys. I don't know how else to not have to scroll. Okay. So for example, this one, let's just paste it and we have a text overlay and I'm going to say sight word free list. Okay. Something like that. Well, that doesn't look great, but you get the idea. And then you can kind of just go through. I'm going to delete the ones that I took out. This is a really nice way of doing this so you don't have to recreate your images every single time. I would probably actually move that around, but I'm not going to be a perfectionist right now, right, guys? Okay, now for this guy, you can probably keep it. Let's see here. We can use the same thing, actually. Just move it down, resize it, keep it like this, except we probably don't need, oh, we can keep that. Okay. Teaching sight words. We're going to resize that a little bit. You may or may not want to keep the new post. It's totally up to you. But if it's going on Pinterest, that could be a good thing to keep for Instagram stories. So another thing you might want to think about is once you create all of your pin images, making a copy of all of those and then adding fun like stickers like this to keep for stories. This one's going to be a little hard, I think, to make into pins unless we get rid of, we could probably do that. Daily sight words, word lessons. Let's do that. It's really weird to create while I'm live because I feel like I'm being antisocial, but I can't really create and talk at the same time. And again, this comes down to personal preference. I'm actually not going to show you all of these because I don't want to spend like an hour doing all this for you guys because I know you have other things to do, but you kind of just have to play around and see what works. But having the overlay is extremely helpful. I usually don't keep quotes, so I'm going to get rid of those. I suppose you could keep the ones that look good. Like this one looks like it's going to work, so I'm going to just move these around a little. It doesn't really take that much to make them pin friendly. That's way easier than recreating the same images all over again. So the resizing aspect of Canva has saved me, I mean, probably 100 hours just in the last year. I'm not even kidding. So if I want to go back and grab a different overlay, I can go through and find, let's do a big green person. So I'm going to grab all of that and go back to one that needs an overlay. Let's use this one. Oh, I don't want all of that. Let's do that up top instead. Free sight word. Because this is part of a larger series, I can link to other stuff as well. Okay, I'm going to resize that. And then I'm not going to mess around with it too much. Okay. So you get the general idea. Now, if there are some images here that you really wanted to use and they're just not looking like they're going to work for this specific situation, I also have some longer mock-ups down here as well. So for example, if I want to take this guy and scroll up here, and maybe I want to do this instead. Ooh, that actually looks kind of cool. I'm just going to leave it like that. Maybe, maybe not. I'm gonna make that work somehow. You just really have to play around with it. So maybe I want to do that and then have the overlay underneath. That's always an option. Let's see what that looks like. We're just going to grab it from here and go like this. Okay. Probably get rid of the GIF unless you want to change this to here's, oops. Do you feel like this about teaching sight words? I'm going to show you another cool thing here in a moment. You're going to go down to more and click on Jiffy. And let's say someone doesn't like teaching sight words. That's kind of who we're trying to grab, right? We're going to just take this cutie and grab this. Okay. Now you can see now that I have created, I could keep going. So I just wanted to kind of show you at the least. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I realize these aren't all like completely ready to go, but about 10 longer images now from the same square images that I created back here. So if you go back to our thumbnails, you can see that we have all of these square images now to share on social media. Now, like I mentioned earlier, one of the really cool things is that if you want, you can use the notepad feature to type out ideas for your captions. You could even type out the exact caption. I also use, you can see right here in this one, actually, you can see that I also use this to write notes to myself. Like when I do resize it as a pin, this is what I want to do to this image, because sometimes those thoughts come to me as I'm still working in the square version. But you can make a hashtag list, you can write your caption and everything. And if you work with a VA or you work with a team, this is also really helpful because then people can just grab your images, see what you want to say, and then schedule it for you. I then like to put everything in Trello, so I have everything organized for future posting. But the notepad feature, I think, is probably one of the most underutilized features of Canva, honestly. So I would strongly recommend using that if you want. And then of course, captions will come in handy when you have a picture and you're like, I know this isn't great, but I have something really cool to tell about it. I want to share the story about the situation because it's really cute and it would make a really good post. So yeah, I mean, you can really do pretty much anything you want with Canva. And it's really nice now to have a collection of images that if you look, I know sometimes when I tell people about these, about Canva and recreating and resizing for the same post over and over. And the first question I always get in the finishing framework course is, well, why would we post about the same thing for 2 weeks in a row? And the thing is, you don't need to post all of these 2 weeks in a row. You now have a collection of posts that you can share pretty much anytime you want. And yes, you will link to your blog post, or you will link to your opt-in, or you will link to the product that's featured. But at first glance, when I look at these posts, I'm not seeing the same message over and over again. Hey, I wrote a new blog post, because that's not what these are. These are images about the blog post, but you're sharing your, okay. Last thing we are going to do, we're going to go back to our pins one more time. And I wanted to show you too, like the fresh pin strategy that came at us last year was really scary because it means a lot of extra work on our part. So I kind of already showed you this with the square images, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take, let's say that these pins are ready to go. I realize that some of these I'm going to have to go in and fine tune. Like this one, I need to rearrange a little. This one I need to add overlays to. I need to add overlays to a lot. Okay, but let's just pretend that they all have overlays right now. And I'm going to take these ones and I'm going to copy. Okay, and then I am going to paste them. Let's see. Let's do it at the bottom. Oh, it pasted them at the bottom for me. Okay. Okay, so now I have all of the same images, the exact same ones at the bottom. But again, this is where the Canva magic happens. If I wanted to change this into a brand new pin, all I have to do is animate it. And guys, it becomes a video pin. So now you have 2 pins to add to your Pinterest. You're literally doubling your pinning power. So you don't just need to leave your content as, hey, I wrote a blog post, check it out. You can get a lot of content from one blog post. And that's one of the main things that we teach in the finishing framework. Canva is a very important tool for this, but there are so many more things that you can do with a batching mentality. This is just a very, very, very small piece of the puzzle.